Now, I may only be 16. I may be dismissed as weak, insignificant, worthless, and yet I am here against all the odds. We are here against all the odds, against all the tyrannical oppressors across the globe who wish to suppress our voices and make us blind to truth. But we are not, because we hold a unique power of humanity, of empathy, of morals, of justice that cause us to raise our heads a little higher, to speak a little clearer, and remember that we are here for those who can't. The thousands upon thousands of young girls just like me in Palestine, Congo, Yemen, Sudan, who could have easily been in our place and gotten the education that they desire and they deserve, who yearn and long for a childhood and a life just like ours. We do it for them, and we prove those who undermine us wrong. I used to wonder why somebody didn't do something about the world. Then I realized that I am somebody. We are all somebody. This party is somebody, and we are all capable of establishing justice if we remain true to who we are. Because even in our darkest of moments, where the world seems corrupted, politics seems distant, and light seems dim, we remember who we are fighting for. We are proof to people globally, the living, the talking, the breathing proof that hope will continue to reverberate, that hope is what will remain, and we will never stop fighting for a world where no child is left starved and every heart knows peace beside clear skies and bright oceans. This is the world we are fighting for. And this is not just a call, it is a reckoning. So now, I leave you with a single question. This party is about action, acting for justice, acting to inspire change. So will you be the coward simply watching behind screens, or the hero that you know you can be? Thank you for listening.
We are living in the most hideous time in this country in terms of the level of racism which is now going across the whole of the country, where you have, isn't it an incredible thing? The Palestine movement in London is not allowed to demonstrate anywhere near a synagogue because it's supposedly intimidating. Even though we've never intimidated anybody in a synagogue, we've never marched to a synagogue, we've never had a protest outside the synagogue. But every single one of these hotels, which has children and women that they say that they care about, they are allowed to go and demonstrate and intimidate these people who already have suffered so much around the world, who've been driven from countries by war, by famine, by all sorts of disasters that they had. Are we seriously saying that in this country it is asylum seekers and refugees to blame for what is going wrong here? Is it seriously their responsibility that we have such lousy wages, that people don't have enough money at the end of the week to pay their bills, that the energy companies are raising their profits all the time? Is that asylum seekers, or is it the people who support big business? Is it the people, the rich and the powerful, who don't care about the vast majority of us? I would say it is the second one. And I'll just say one word about the flags. I think anybody who wants to put a flag, an England flag or a Union Jack or any of these, they want to put one in their house or in their window, that's entirely up to them. It's not something I would do. But I think if you're hanging 20 or 30 of these flags in a street, if you're putting the England flag on zebra crossings and on roundabouts, if you're putting it on people's walls, that isn't celebrating your so-called culture. That is trying to intimidate other people, and we should completely reject that as well.
It's really important that you know that not only are there 500 people in this room today, but there was also 1,500 people in Blackburn earlier on this afternoon, and that means that there has been 2,000 people turning up at the launch of your party in Lancashire, and it is a fantastic start for each and every one of us. This cannot be about Labour Party Mark II. This has to be a party that is rooted in our communities, our trade unions, our social movements. A party that sees elections and votes at the same time as seeing protest movements as being two sides of the same coin. And of course we want people to be elected to council chambers and to Westminster, but we have to make it clear. My own take on this is, if anybody by choice is a career politician and sees that as their life and their career, this is not the party for them. We want people who represent their communities, their unions and their social movements, who will go to council and go to Westminster to be the megaphones of those movements and part of a party that is an insurgent party on the streets and the unions in Parliament and Council, because together we can be strong and together we can create a movement and a party like we've not seen in this country, and the time for that party is now, and the starting point for that party is today in Preston. Thank you.
And with that, let's welcome Jeremy Corbyn! Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not every day you get to introduce someone who's been called everything from a visionary to a national treasure, sometimes in the very same headline. He's a man who can take on Parliament, inspire crowds across the country, and somehow remain one of the most consistent voices in British politics. You can't deny his passion, his principles, and his abilities to make each individual empowered. Please join me in welcoming Jeremy Corbyn.
I receive every day my good friend Mustafa Barghouti, member of the Palestine National Assembly, independent. Every morning he sends me a text message. This morning, the Israeli army killed 67 civilians in Gaza, including 18 who were seeking humanitarian aid. 5 more Palestinians, including 2 children, died of starvation caused by the Israeli siege of Gaza. I acknowledged that and thanked him for it. Thanks, dear Jeremy. 322 Palestinians, including 124 children, died of starvation since Israel imposed its illegal and inhuman siege on Gaza, preventing humanitarian aid, including food, medicines and clean water, from reaching the starving population. And that's the kind of message that we all get every single day. 60,000 people have been killed in Gaza. And when we've challenged the British government on this, they kept on from the beginning of October 23 onwards, supplying arms to Israel. In fact, the arms deliveries from Britain to Israel increased when Starmer became Prime Minister and continued to grow. And when the International Court of Justice made its ruling, which it did, on acts of genocide, I was there. The South African government asked me if I'd go as an observer to the hearing, which I did, and it was poignant, fascinating, deeply moving for lots of reasons, one of which was that, as I'm sure many in this room spent years campaigning against apartheid in respect of South Africa, to see that finally a form of political justice had come when the country that had thrown off the yoke of apartheid was now determined to throw off the yoke of occupation for the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank. Well done, South Africa, in taking the case. And since then, through the Hague Group, which was set up by Progressive International, which is a uniting body of left organizations around the world, we set up the Hague Group of now 13 nations who are a UN bloc to demand an end to genocide and support for the Palestinian people. So these initiatives are quite important. But when we challenged the British government on the arms sales, they first of all said they were only there for self-defense. And then they said they wouldn't be used for breaches of humanitarian law. And then when we challenged further on a supply of components for the F-35 jets, they said, well, we can't stop them because we don't know where they go. So I said, are you serious? Are you for real? You're telling me you're making components for a highly sophisticated fighter jet and you don't know where they end up? I thought these things were marked to within an inch of their lives. It's complete nonsense. They've carried on with the supply of those parts because they don't want to upset what they call the global supply chain. They've also continued the use of the RAF base at Akrotiri for overflying of Gaza, and one of the privatized pilots forgot to turn the transponder off, so we know exactly where they fly and what they do. So I asked David Lammy if, since they gathered all this information at RAF Akrotiri, would they kindly pass all of it on to the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court to help their prosecutions? He said no. So I said, where is it going then? Can't tell us. Well, we know damn well where it's going. We know what it's all about. It's all been about supporting Israel's military activity in Gaza, which has resulted in the deaths of 60,000 people. And so we are absolutely resolute on demanding a ceasefire, withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza, the West Bank, and the Jordan Valley, an end to the Zionist idea of taking over the whole of Palestine and the expulsion of the Palestinian people into the Sinai or to wherever else. And so this is some of the work that we do, and I'm determined that your party.uk will be a voice for peace and a voice for solidarity. It's not up to us to tell the Palestinian people what form their lives, their state, or whatever should take in the future. When you're in solidarity with the struggle, it means you're in solidarity with them to decide their own course of action and their own future. It's quite an important distinction. And so I want our party to be a party of a voice for peace around the world. And this month, I was in Japan for the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the bombardment of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Deeply moving experience, talking to very elderly survivors. This very elderly gentleman, aged 95, still very astute, very intelligent guy, put his arm around me and through interpreters said, do everything you can to save anybody else from the horror of a nuclear explosion and the deaths that they have suffered. I'm very determined that our party should be open, inclusive, democratic, but above all, grassroots campaigning and grassroots maintained. We are developing. We've got 700,000 people have now registered in some form to join up to the party. We're doing a large number of public events around the country. This is the 9th I've done in a week on this. We're doing many, many more. The idea being for people to begin to understand what the fundamental message is, and then to develop into what will become branches of the party, leading up to a foundation conference, which we're hoping will be in November. And we'll then move on from there, and we'll be supporting candidates and contesting local elections next year and parliamentary elections in probably 28 or 29. But the important thing is that we give people hope and give people an opportunity. Because the media, if you can bear yourselves to watch it, will tell you that the whole issue, the only problem that ever matters in Britain at the moment is that levels of numbers of asylum seekers, refugees and immigration into our society. They never tell you how many work in the NHS, the contribution they make and all the rest of it, all designed to be very deliberately divisive. And then Farage turns up and his mates, demonstrates outside asylum hotels, demonstrates against people, and creates havoc as a result. Some of the people that are attracted towards reform are actually very genuine people who have very, very real problems. Real problems of poverty, real problems of bad housing, real problems of excessive private sector rents, real problems of lack of council housing, all of those things. Those people are being exploited by Farage and by the far right. It's up to us to provide that alternative. And we won't provide that alternative just by having internal meetings discussing direction of policy, structures, or anything else. We will only provide those alternatives by an inclusive way of doing things. So I hope, again, I cannot say what the policies of the party will be, because they're not decided yet, but I hope we will include in everything we do a method of working which is open, communicative, and grassroots, and that every branch of the party would be required to hold at least one public event per month, which the local community can come to, be involved with, make their plans, make their proposals, so we become a cultural part of the lives of people all over the country in their local campaigns, as well as in the great issues such as Gaza and inequality and injustice and poverty within our society. We'll also use those meetings for the creative ideas about taxing the super rich, about taxing the big corporations, about redistributing power and wealth, about improving the lot of the poorest people, and as a society spending less on weapons, less on defence, and an international policy which is about peace and justice. But it is about us talking to each other and supporting each other. Sometimes, and occasionally, I've got enough to do, I scroll through social media to find out what I'm thinking. It's really weird, it's really strange. There's people out there that have got all kinds of analyses of what I think, what I've done, what I do, what I will do. Okay. I'm sure they're really very imaginative, some of these ideas. What I do know, and what I have learnt, is two things. One is, you can mobilise people, and we're doing that, and we've done that, and we will always do that, for justice, for peace, for equality, and there's a huge thirst for that. There is also a very, very powerful group of people who own the media, who run the establishment, who own the biggest business in our society, who do not want redistribution of wealth, who do not want peace, who do not want social justice, and the absolutely last thing they want is a mobilised political party. They want the cosy arrangement that you've got in Westminster, with three major parties, with identical economic policies, identical international policies, identical attitudes to the poorest and most vulnerable in our society. We are going to change that. We are going to be a very big party to bring about social change, bring about social justice, and that's why Preston leads the way. Thank you very much.